The capacity for deep empathy is the very thing draining your energy and making your relationships shallower. You try to feel what they feel, to absorb their struggle because you believe that's what a good friend, partner, or leader does. You end up exhausted and they end up feeling misunderstood. By the end of this, you'll see emotion as a precision tool, one that builds boundaries and creates genuine connection. Think about the last time you tried to comfort someone who was truly distressed. What was your first impulse? It was likely to solve the problem, to offer a silver lining, or to say, "I know exactly how you feel." You reached for a solution or a story. You mirrored their anxiety, their frustration, their grief. You let their emotional state become your emotional state. This feels like connection, but the result is often two people drowning instead of one. The person you're trying to help now has to manage your feelings on top of their own. They see the pain on your face and they pull back, either to protect you or because they feel judged. You wanted to build a bridge. Instead, you built a mirror, and now you're both staring into it, exhausted. This constant emotional absorption leads to burnout, compassion fatigue, and a strange kind of loneliness. The very thing you thought would connect you to the world ends up isolating you behind a wall of secondhand feelings. But if absorbing emotion is the wrong path, what's the alternative? How can you show up for people in a powerful way, a way that actually helps, without losing yourself in the process? The answer begins with a radical shift in perspective. Your emotions are a high-fidelity data stream from your internal operating system. That flicker of annoyance when someone interrupts you is a data point about your need for focus. The quiet ache of loneliness is a signal about your need for connection. The hot surge of anger in a negotiation is a report on a perceived violation of your boundaries. These feelings are your body's native language. We spend our lives trying to silence them, fix them, or ignore them when they are simply trying to deliver a message. Imagine the captain of a ship in a storm. The barometer needle drops sharply. The wind speed indicator spins. The captain sees this data. She uses it to adjust the sails, to change course, to prepare the crew. She understands the storm is a reality to be navigated. She trusts her instruments to report that reality accurately. Your feelings are those instruments. Anxiety is the barometer dropping. Excitement is the wind filling the sails. Sadness is the reading that shows the ship has taken on water and needs attention. When you learn to read these instruments with clarity, you can navigate any emotional weather in yourself and in others. But this raises a critical problem. For most of us, the data is just noise, a chaotic mess of "I feel bad" or "I'm stressed." The signal is getting lost. So how do you go from feeling overwhelmed by emotional noise to clearly reading the data? You learn to name it with precision. Psychologists have found that people who can make fine-grained distinctions between their emotions have profoundly better life outcomes. They call this emotional granularity. It's the difference between saying "I feel terrible" and saying "I feel let down, a little resentful, and apprehensive about what happens next." The first is a fog. The second is a map. The act of searching for the specific word is the intervention itself. When your brain moves from the vague, global feeling of bad to the hunt for a precise label, you engage different neural circuits. The activity shifts from the raw, reactive centers of the brain to the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for context, language, and strategic planning. You are building a cognitive bridge from the storm to the ship's control tower. Consider the case of a startup founder, we'll call him David, facing a make-or-break pitch to investors. In the moments before walking into the room, he feels a familiar, paralyzing wave of what he calls anxiety. In the past, he would have tried to suppress it or power through it, leading to a shaky, inauthentic presentation. But he'd been practicing this new skill. He paused, he took a breath, he asked himself, "What is this? Really?" The word anxiety fractured into pieces. He identified one part as pure anticipation, the same feeling he got before a race. That was useful energy. He labeled another part as apprehension, specifically tied to one notoriously difficult board member. This was a tactical problem, so he quickly reviewed his 3 key counterarguments for that person's likely objections. He felt a third thread, a sense of exposure, the vulnerability of putting his creation on the line. He acknowledged it, named it, and accepted it as the price of admission for doing something meaningful. He walked into that room a different person. He was still feeling a powerful mix of emotions, but now he was the one holding the map. This skill is learnable. Start here. The next time you feel a strong, undifferentiated emotion, just stop for 10 seconds. Ask your body, if this feeling had a name, what would it be? Then ask, if it had 2 more names, a more specific blend of ingredients, what would they be? This simple act of labeling changes your relationship to the feeling. You are no longer drowning in it, you are observing it. But knowing your own internal weather patterns is only half the journey. Emotional intelligence lives in the space between people. How do you apply this clarity to the chaotic, unpredictable world of other people's feelings? What is the mechanism for true, effective empathy? The greatest misconception about empathy is that it means feeling what someone else feels. That is emotional contagion. It's catching their flu. True. Useful empathy is the ability to understand what someone is feeling and why they might be feeling it from their perspective. You can understand the logic of their emotional state without needing to share it. You become a witness, a collaborator in their sense-making process. The tool for this is genuine curiosity. When someone comes to you in distress, your job is to become an archaeologist of their feeling. Your questions are the brushes you use to gently sweep away the dust and reveal the structure beneath. Replace the impulse to say, "I understand," with the humility to ask, "Help me understand." Instead of saying, "Don't worry, it will be fine," ask, "What's the part that worries you the most?" Instead of saying, "You shouldn't be so angry," ask, "What's the most frustrating part of this for you?" Instead of trying to solve their problem, ask, "What would you most like to see happen?" Look at what these questions do. They validate the other person's emotion as real and important. They grant them the status of being the expert on their own experience. They create a space where they can hear themselves think. Often, the simple act of articulating their feeling to a curious, non-judgmental listener is what allows them to find their own solution. You are offering them the gift of their own clarity. There was a technical support agent, Maria, who was on the verge of quitting. She spent her days being yelled at by frustrated customers. Her script told her to be polite, apologetic, and to offer solutions. It was failing miserably. Her manager gave her one piece of unconventional advice: ignore the script. Your only job on the next call is to get genuinely curious about the customer's frustration. The next call was a man furious about a billing error. Maria took a breath. Instead of her usual, "I'm so sorry for the inconvenience," she said, "It sounds like this has been incredibly frustrating. Help me understand what happened from the beginning." The man's tone shifted. He explained the whole saga. She didn't interrupt. She just asked questions. "So when you saw that charge, what was your first thought? What was the most difficult part of trying to resolve this before?" By the end of the call, the man's problem was solved. But more than that, he thanked her. He said, "You're the first person who actually listened." Maria stopped getting yelled at. Her performance scores soared. She wasn't absorbing anger anymore. She was mapping it. This seems straightforward enough when dealing with reasonable people. But what about the hard cases? What about the colleague who uses guilt as a weapon? The boss whose anxiety floods every room? Or the family member whose anger feels like a physical threat? How does this model of curiosity work when the other person's emotions feel designed to manipulate you? This leads to the ultimate purpose of emotional intelligence. It's a tool for building and defending your personal sovereignty. The highest expression of this skill is the ability to see another person's emotional state clearly, understand its origins, and then use that clarity to enforce a healthy boundary. You can understand their anger without accepting their yelling. You can recognize their anxiety without letting it dictate your schedule. You can see their guilt trip for what it is: a signal about their own unmet needs or insecurities. Your emotional clarity becomes a shield. It allows you to say, with calm conviction, I can see that you're angry, and we can talk about this when you're ready to speak to me respectfully. Or, I understand you're feeling anxious about the deadline, but my part is on track, and I need to focus on completing it. You are responding to the data they are giving you and using your own internal data to make a strategic choice. This is the opposite of being a nice person. It is being an effective person. It is being a person who can navigate the complex currents of human interaction with integrity and purpose. The work is to stop seeing feelings as problems to be solved or suppressed. They are information. They are the exquisitely sensitive instruments guiding you through the world. Your next conversation, your next meeting, your next quiet moment alone is an opportunity to practice. Stop trying to control the feeling. Just listen to its data. When you talk to someone else, stop trying to feel what they feel. Get curious. Ask one more question than you normally would. The storm is here. It was always here. Now you have the instruments to navigate it. The work starts now.